Well, you found us. Dad Space. Dad Space. The final frontier. Sounds familiar. Somewhere. Anyways, Dad Space is here. It's a podcast. Surprisingly, you're on a podcast app listening to a podcast. What are the odds of that? Whoa. Today, great guest, Antonio Grate, author of a book called The Power of One. Antonio is a great guest. He grew up in the foster system and now is a dad. What an inspiring story from Antonio Grate here on Dad Space. The podcast designed for dads by dads. You're a dad. I'm a dad. We're all dads. Thanks for joining Dad Space. I have an author with me today. His name is Antonio Grate. Antonio wrote a book called The Power of One. Antonio is a speaker, educator, minister, loving husband and father. And he's got the coolest shirt. I got to get one of these. This is really cool. Ex-foster child written all across his shirt. We have a lot to talk about today, Antonio, so welcome.
David, great to meet you as well. Thanks for having me. I've been looking forward to this day, so I'm super excited and ready to go.
I hope that I can live up to your expectations because you, sir, have a great message. You are a great inspiration to many people. I read some of the reviews from students that sat and listened to you speak, yes. And you're making a difference. So to have a few moments today with you, I'm inspired already. So it's good.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's, I'm glad you even shared that a little bit because overall, that's my mission. That's my purpose is to inspire, but not just inspire people, but to inspire our youth, inspire this generation, the next generation, and inspiring them. And one key area that I like to focus on is hope. Igniting hope within them, because oftentimes when our youth or anybody in general, when they lose hope, when they lose the thought of tomorrow or today being a better day than yesterday or than their current situation, their actions tend to reflect someone who doesn't respect themselves, who don't look at themselves as valuable. And my goal ultimately is to remind individuals, especially our youth in the foster care system, that listen, I understand and I know that maybe your present situation and your yesterday isn't what you will have liked, isn't what you wanted for yourself or anyone. But I want to let you know that I've been down probably a similar road as you, as one that was in the foster care system, as one that did age out of the system. And I want to remind you that, you know what, you are worth it. You do have a purpose and you can get past these current situations and challenges that you are facing with, but don't lose hope. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel.
No. Okay. So I really want to get into your story because that sets up the writing of the book. But before we go there, Antonio, think back for me for a second. I was reading the reviews from some students that interacted with you and your message, and take me back to maybe an example of a student coming up to you after one of your talks or something, and maybe that kind of interaction and how you touched them and how your message helped them. Can you remember a time?
Not to sound boastful, but I can really think of a lot of instances where things that has happened. One instance I'd like to mention is I was talking with a group of students and I was reading a portion of my book, and I can tell that the readings of the pages within my book was really resonating with the student in particular. And just so happened this one student decided to share what she was thinking and what she was feeling. And she simply said, I am so thankful that you're here today. I am so thankful that you're sharing this because it's going to really help a lot of people, because just listening to you, I feel supported. Just listening to you, I don't feel alone anymore. Just listening to you, I feel like someone actually understands and get me regarding some of the things that I've been through. And she just simply said, thank you so much for sharing with what I shared that day. And that's just one example of many different examples.
So with a person like yourself with a message, having the book obviously is going to help spread the message and open doors to speak. As you interact with students and listeners who come and hear your story, how do you, when you walk out to your car or you leave the building and you continue on with your day, what are some of the things that go through your mind as you reflect on this interaction with people who connect with your message?
I'm always and forever grateful because, you know, sometimes there's things in your heart that you feel compelled or led to do. And when someone decides to open up and share, you know that when they do that, it's coming from a genuine place. So I absolutely never take anything like that for granted. And I'm grateful and I'm humble and I'm thankful. And there's another feeling that I like to, another word that I like to share is it's fulfillment. It fulfills me because it feels like I'm doing my part or my portion within society. Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's such a fulfilling feeling because I'm in purpose. I'm in purpose. Like everyone was created for a purpose. And when you can begin to walk in it and live in it, oh, it's the best feeling ever. The best feeling ever.
To know what your purpose is in life and to have the opportunity to share that purpose. Like there are so many people in the world today, Antonio, that have no idea why am I even here? How can I help somebody? Right. You have a story. Everyone has a story, Antonio. I have a story. You have a story. And we may think that our story may be a big story that could impact many. We may think our story is quite meaningless and we just kind of exist, but we do have a story. So I would love to jump back into your story a little bit, have people kind of catch up to today, because there's a lot of great things happening in your life today, but life early for you wasn't as easy.
That's right.
And however you feel comfortable where you want to start with that, but I would love to kind of give some people some context into your life and kind of a little bit of the journey of your path to get here.
Absolutely. Well, shortly after I was born, my mom began to use drugs. And when that happened, my grandmother and my grandfather, so my grandparents, they took me in to live with them. So I grew up as a kid, always living with my grandparents from what I can remember. And I had a situation that happened as I got a little older, probably around the age of 7, 8 years old. And one day I had just finished playing a game of tackle football with my friends. And it's this older girl that was normally around with us. And as we was exiting this vacant lot in which we was playing the game of football, I don't know what I said. I don't know what I did. But all I remember is that young lady saying to me in a very aggressive tone, "That's why your mama is a crackhead." And those words, I never experienced this before, David, but those words, they like paralyzed me. And because I was walking, I stopped walking, and all of a sudden I started crying and I couldn't stop. It was as if my world or something just started crumbling down. It was demoralizing. It was defeating. It was embarrassing. It was frustrating. I was angry. I had all these different feelings going on within me all at the same time. Because when I was growing up in my neighborhood, see, I grew up in the ghetto of Chicago, the south side of Chicago in the ghetto in the early 80s. And if you know anything about the inner cities in the early 80s, what we have or what we're coming out of is a pandemic. But in those inner cities, they had what they called a drug epidemic. Yep. Crack cocaine and things of that nature were running rampant through those communities. So we saw individuals being affected by that. But we all, as a kid, we would make fun of them. We would laugh at them and things of that nature. So it wasn't a good thing. It wasn't a good thing at all. And to find out like that my mom was affected, it just turned my world upside down. And then I just began to realize that, man, you know what? My mom isn't the only one in my family on drugs. My sister is, and my cousin is, and I live with these individuals. And to top it off, my dad's not in the home, and my grandparents are aging. And then you fast forward a little bit, and then the love of my life, my grandmother, who I knew loved me without a shadow of a doubt. I might have been able to question some other individuals, but I had no questions that my grandmother loved me. And to see her begin to lose the battle with breast cancer and to ultimately die, a piece of me died. Mm. And I just remember just having so many negative thoughts of just wanting to give in and throwing the towel. And it was a tough period for me at the age of 9, you know, and to experience the various things that I experienced before the age of 9, such as my brother, who just wanted to spend time with me, my little brother, who just wanted to spend some time with me this day, trying to hang out with me, to get hit by a vehicle, you know, and to deal with that guilt and to deal with that feeling like I was the reason why that happened. Wow. And when my grandmother died, I look up one day and my grandfather is telling me I need to pack my things because I'm going to live somewhere else. And I was going to live with relatives, but I didn't know them. And that added on, you know, to the questions of why this and why that, and why did my grandmother have to die? If she didn't die, I wouldn't be here. Why, you know, just all these questions I'm dealing with as a kid. And I just remember having a lot of nights where I cried, a lot of days I didn't understand. Then anger started to build up in me because I was in a new environment. I didn't really know these individuals. I had to go to new schools, and the living arrangements were different and different things of that nature. And I was just in a place of, I don't know, kind of just going through the motions and trying to be okay. But on the inside, I really wasn't okay.
And we're talking about like your developmental years where you're learning and growing and gaining knowledge that you're going to use as an adult, and you're forming beliefs, you're forming opinions, you're forming who you are as a person. And it's all an uphill climb for you at that point. You don't have the quote traditional family unit to shelter and encourage and support you. You're on your own in most of this case.
Yeah. Well, I had my family.
Okay. Yeah.
Which was at this point my aunt and uncles. Okay. That's who I was staying with. But at the time in which I went to live with them, I didn't know them like that. So the only family I knew, which was my mom, you know, my grandparents, and also my dad, because I did have a relationship with my dad. I knew them over the years. Okay. I just couldn't understand exactly why I wasn't with any of those individuals. You know, nobody never sat down with me and helped me understand what was going on, why this happened and why that happened. So I had to actually form my own reasoning for things happening. Yeah. And that was tough. That was tough. That was tough. And then if we fast forward just a little bit, by the time I was turned 15, then that's when I officially actually entered into the foster care system. And the reason why I entered into the foster care system at that time is because my mother was pregnant and she gave birth to my baby sister, but they found drugs in her system. Mm. And that's when the state got involved within my family. And that's when I was officially entered into the foster care system. And even in that, I went to go stay with my grandfather again. Okay. But if you ask me, I felt like I've always been in the foster care system, you know, because often you'll be amazed how many kids have a similar story as me, living with the extension of family and not with their biological parents, because of the situation that the parents are in. Because the reason why I was with my grandparents is because of the decision that my mom made with using drugs. The environment was crazy. It was chaotic. It wasn't a healthy environment for a child, you know, and my dad wasn't in the home. Yeah. And I never lived with him for various reasons, but you know, that was the process.
Okay. So this leads you to your adult years then, right? As you come out of all of this, right? The one thing I saw on your website is you have a picture of you with is it your social worker that was with you?
Yes.
Explain this relationship.
She, priceless. The first word I'm gonna use is absolutely priceless. Okay. She became like a mother to me. And And it's interesting when I think about it, because that picture wasn't taken that long ago,
Hmm.
you know. But she was like a mother to me. She was one constants that I had in my life. And she was a positive influence. And I respected her so much, to the point to where if she told me to do anything, I was doing it.
Yeah.
You know, if she said, Antonio, you need to get your grades up, I was doing it. If she said, Antonio, you need to be here, I was doing it. Whatever she said, I was doing it, just because of the amount of respect I had for her. And the thing about that is that it's because of the respect she showed for me. And ultimately, it was the love she showed to me. And she was there to help. And it was clear and evident that's what she was trying to do each and every day.
So that would go beyond her job title. Really, right? There was a connection there.
There was a connection there. I don't know if I would say it would go beyond her job title, because
Okay.
your social worker is there to help serve you and help put you in a healthier environment,
Okay.
and to keep you, on the right track in regards to achieving goals and things of that nature. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was above her job. What I will say is that she had the right heart.
Okay. That's what I'm thinking.
She had the right heart, because, and that's so significant, because when children are in the situation that I was in, when children come from traumatized backgrounds, not with their parents for whatever the reason, whether it's neglect, whether it's abuse, whether it's death, whatever the reason is, that's traumatizing within itself. And to be able to relate and identify someone that you truly feel confident that loves you, that helps with the healing. That helps with the feeling of being supported. And oftentimes where you feel so unsupported.
Okay. Yeah, and I like that, how you qualified that, Antonio. That's good. Yeah, because I can imagine in a role like that, you can have maybe somebody working in that environment who doesn't have the heart for it and sees it as a job. And
Yeah.
Antonio, you're just another file on my desk, and
Yeah.
let's just get through the paperwork. I want to get home to my family, right? And they
Yeah.
don't really have the heart for what they do.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she demonstrated heart to you and cared,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
without that
And
impact in your
and
life, things could have been much different, right?
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So, okay. So your experience growing up in the foster care system, how has that shaped your thought of family?
For one, it reminded me of the value of family.
Okay.
Um, and family, first of all, I'm a father.
Yeah.
I'm a father of 4 wonderful boys, and
Awesome.
I've been married 14 years in June of this year. Right.
Awesome.
And I didn't see that growing up. My mom and my mother, they never married.
Yeah.
My grandparents, they married, but the crazy part about it is they slept in 2 separate rooms. I never saw them sleeping together. So to me, they was almost like roommates. It never really registered in my mind that, hey, these are 2 married individuals and this is how you do marriage.
Yeah.
My grandmother, my grandfather, same apartment, but 2 different rooms. So I really never really saw what I would like to say a healthy family environment consistently. And what I realize is family is a super valuable, super important, especially when kids are involved. And I always told myself that I want to do the best that I can to make sure I have myself together, regardless of what that looks like. Not really knowing what that looks like growing up, but just saying, I want to have myself together so I could try to do this family thing the right way, or try to do this family thing as best as possible. And I've always was intentional on trying to do that.
So when you talk about your kids, your boys, as you create family in your home,
Mm-hmm.
are you kind of creating family in your home for your boys as well as for yourself as a new experience? being a father and having kids and building a life for yourself that you didn't have in the same
Yeah,
way, right?
absolutely. The word that I would say is breaking a cycle.
Okay.
My goal has always been to break the cycle.
Okay.
I've always put the pressure on me. I always point the finger at myself first to say, come on, Tonio, you got to be the one. Come on, Tonio. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult, but come on, Tonio, push through it, press through it. If you can do this, so I've always put the pressure on myself. So when it comes to my family, when it comes to my kids, it's me standing in the gap, standing in the position and say, listen, my mother might not have been able to do it. My dad might not have been able to do it. But Antonio, I'm going to do it. I'm going to break the cycle so that I can begin to create a legacy and I can begin to give a better and more solid foundation for my kids to stand upon as they grow up and develop into young men and to men.
So what, Antonio, in your opinion, and based on your background and what you've and the students you speak to and the places your book, everything, in your opinion, what do kids today in foster care system, what do they need the most?
To me, these two go hand in hand, support
Okay.
and love.
Okay.
Support and love. Because I believe if you love someone, then you're automatically going to support them. And the truth of the matter is they need to be reached right where they are. Sometimes as adults, we have a perception of things and how we should do this and how we should do that. And we may have even good intentions. But to be honest, sometimes we can completely miss the child right where they are. Yeah. And when you do that, you're not hoping to bring about a successful connection or build a successful relationship. Yeah. And I think that's important, meeting the child right where they are.
So you write the book, Antonio. What was the morning like when you woke up and went, I am going to go write a book about my experience? What's the process of, how do you wake up one day and go, I need this book. I need this to be written. How'd that come to play?
I almost want to say it's a long story, but I remember in college, I had a best friend and he knew about my upbringing and things of that nature. And he would always say, Antonio, man, your life is a story. He would always say it. But to me, it's conversation. I never thought about actually writing a book, but he would always say it. And as I got older, married, kids and things of that nature. And I started to think, man, he would always say my life is a story. Does that mean I should write a book? And then something happened. I found myself in a place in my life where, I really wanted to do more than what I was doing. I really wanted to serve. I really wanted to make an impact. And I found myself in a position to speak. Okay. And that began to bring a level of fulfillment to me in regards to me speaking to at-risk youth, speaking to youth that come from a similar background as me, speaking to youth that come from similar obstacles and challenges that I did, and the fact that I overcame them. Being able to do that began to give me a level of fulfillment that I never felt before. And over a period of time, I said, man, this is great for me to be able to talk to these students, but I'm just one person. Wonder if I can write it. Wonder if I could put it in the book. Then that way, even more people can hear about my story. And I don't have to necessarily be at one place at one time. I could be in many places at one time. So when I started thinking like that, I was like, man, I need to write this book. I didn't know how necessarily, but I began to talk to individuals, watch YouTube clips and various things of that nature, and just kind of started the process. And I was able to get help along the way.
And how was the journey of writing a book then? Was there points in the journey of writing where you hit a wall, or it was hard and difficult and you pushed through?
Yeah, absolutely. I faced various challenges. It was a long journey. I think the biggest challenge for me was having the thoughts of, am I writing this the right way? And when I thought I was done, I really wasn't done, because I realized that, in my mind, to me, the story may sound put together the right way here and there, but I had to realize that it wasn't finished because of I'm not sure what word they used, but because of the flow of the story throughout the book. So when I realized that, I had to press pause. And then I had to get some more help. I had to actually seek out some experienced book writers to help me with that process, because I understood how key that was. And then the other piece was just, really just trying to get it to the online bookstores and things of that nature is kind of a process as well. But it was a process. It was a journey. And I think the biggest thing was just really writing it, getting it out there, and then just kind of organizing it all to where it just flows and makes sense.
Excellent. So yeah, we're talking with Antonio Grate. The book is The Power of One here on Living the Next Chapter. So some of the people listening to this podcast, Antonio, are new authors, or they have an idea for a book.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who's contemplating writing their story?
I would simply say that, I think it's natural to contemplate it. I think it's natural to ask questions, if you should do it. If you do it, will it help anyone? I think those are natural questions. And so it's absolutely nothing wrong with contemplating if writing it. But what I would say is, because you're contemplating writing it, that means that there's something in you that wants you makes you feel the need that you should write it. And because of that, I think you should simply start. Some of the best advice I was given was simply this: don't worry about grammatical errors or anything else. Just write. Just write. Just write. Because by doing that, then you're going to actually begin to give somebody something to work with, to be able to look over and make adjustments and make corrections and begin that process. So the biggest thing for you to do is simply start writing.
Can you remember the day when the book came out, Antonio, and how you felt?
Absolutely. I remember the day I was waiting for it. It seemed like I wanted it to be there the next day. And so I was always expecting for it to show up. And when it finally showed up, I wasn't sure if it was it. I felt like it was, but I wasn't sure. So I just remember, like, man, is this it? Frantically trying to take the tape off and everything. And when I opened it up, I just remember saying, I was so excited. I was like, oh man, this is it. Oh man, and I had the book, and it was a surreal moment because, who would have thought a kid that grew up in the ghetto of Chicago, one of the most ruthless cities at the time, that dealt with all of the struggles and challenges and obstacles that I dealt with and managed to overcome, will be an author. And sometimes it's still surreal, just to be honest. It's still surreal that I actually made it to this point.
So looking on your website too, Antonio, I love hearing the journey of an author. So first of all, I want to stop and congratulate you on doing something that many people would love to do. A, they don't know how, or B, they're not motivated. You did it. And your book is helping people, which is stupendous. That's amazing. So congratulations on that part of the journey, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
The name of our podcast is Living the Next Chapter. So the book is done, finished, complete, printed, sent to you. Now, today is where your book begins, right?
Absolutely.
Done. Now I'm going to take this great thing and share it and build a community around this story.
Yes.
So tell me about the community that you're building around your story and how you're interacting with your audience to support the book, obviously, but to share the message of the book.
I think the last thing you just said is to share the message, because what I realize is that my mission is really to share the message. And I'm using myself as an example, but I really have the 250,000 children that are entering into the foster care system in the United States of America every year in mind.
Wow.
Right. So I'm thinking about them, though I'm sharing my message, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to help add more support to them. I want to be able to add more support to them. Like, for example, I'm working on a program to where I really began to mentor young adolescent males that are in the foster care system. I already do mentoring, but I really want to take it to the next level. At the same time, when I wrote this book, I had foster children in mind, but I also have foster parents, adoptive parents, and guardians in mind as well, to share my story along with tips, tools, and strategies to help them bridge the relationship gap with that child when that child enters into their new home. So those are some of the things that I'm looking at to ultimately provide support, to the foster children, to provide support to the foster parents and things of that nature. So that's really what I'm doing by sharing my message and mission.
So tell me, Antonio, what are you doing today, apart from the book, that helps kids in the foster care system currently?
Really, what I'm doing right now is ultimately sharing my story.
Okay.
Ultimately saying, listen, I've been through some challenges as well, but you know what? I'm here today. I defied the odds. The statistics were stacked against me, but guess what? I went to college. I was the first one in my family to go to college and graduate. Listen, I have a healthy marriage. I've been married going on 14 years now with 4 wonderful boys, who are nothing compared to dealing with the things that I dealt with growing up. So what I wanted to simply do is to inspire hope, by sharing my story, allowing them to see me, meet me, greet me, talk to me, to let them know, listen, I'm really no different than you. I was able to press through it and I'm won and I'm still winning, and you can win as well.
Okay. So Antonio, I have another way of looking at this too. So you have a couple, you have somebody who wants to be a foster parent, a sponsor, and they have the heart, the same as you described earlier for the social worker that had heart and demonstrated heart. We have a family, they want to bring and open their home up to kids that,
yes,
need that heart. What is your advice to somebody who hasn't, who is deciding, whether or not I'd be a good foster parent? And what would be your advice to somebody who's brand new to the thought of opening their doors to somebody in this situation?
Wow. That's a great question. The first thing I want to remind that individual of is this child is coming with baggage. This child is coming with traumas.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, traumas typically have negative effects on the behavior and emotions of that child. And the truth of the matter is, you may not even be fully aware of all of the things that they have actually experienced. Mm-hmm. Typically, the social workers and individuals like that share as much information as possible, but they may not even know everything that child has experienced. Yeah. And because you are aware that this child is coming with you with traumas, you have to realize that you're going to always need patience as a parent, but you're going to need even more patience. You're going to need even more love. You're going to have to really pour yourself out to a whole nother level that you might not even realize that you will have to. But those are some of the more immediate requirements that's needed for these children that are coming into your home, for those who want to adopt children, for those who want to foster. Those are some of the more immediate things that I would like to remind them of, because it's probably going to get challenging to an extent. It's probably going to get challenging. And when it gets challenging, they still need the love.
Yeah.
They still need the support. They still need the patience.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is how I would like to say it. The child is this seed.
Okay.
And if I had a seed and then I had the soil, so I put the seed in the soil, in the pot, covered with soil, and then I bring it to you, David, and say, hey, David, can you tell me what kind of seed is in here?
Mm.
You probably would say no, because you didn't plant it and I didn't tell you what I planted.
Okay. I like it. Let's keep going. This is good. I like it.
Okay. But you know that there's a seed in there. And in order for this seed to become what it's supposed to be, to become what it's created to be, you must begin to provide it with the necessary nutrients for it to do that. And some of those nutrients are sun, water, oxygen, fertilizer, potentially different things of that nature. If you want this seed to grow and to become what it should be, it's the same thing with the child. The child needs the proper nutrients so that it can become what it's called and created to be. The environment that the child was in wasn't a productive environment for that child to grow properly. So because that happened, ultimately, it began to suck the nutrients from the seed. it began to suck the nutrients from the seed. The seed is still there and the seed still has life. But if you can get that seed, if you can get that child in the right environment with the right nutrients, in due time, it will begin to produce what it's supposed to be. And remember, the thing about a seed becoming a plant, it doesn't happen overnight, Dave. It doesn't happen overnight. And because it doesn't happen overnight, we must be patient. We must continue to speak life to the seed. We must continue to speak life to the child. We must continue to supply it with the support and necessary nutrients that it needs to eventually grow and flourish and reveal all of its greatness for the world to see.
So if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't hear the passion in Antonio's voice, you're missing out. Because I'm seeing a man with a mission and a purpose in front of me today. And I'm inspired, Antonio, because you come from a place of experience and love and that same care that you were shown as a child in different situations. You are now demonstrating that. And the book is one way to facilitate that and open some doors. But when the doors open, it's about the message, right? It's about standing in front of that group or speaking to that one student after your presentation, and that one-on-one commitment and contact. That's where the message comes through.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I want to share this part about my story. When my grandmother passed away, I was in such a dark place. And I just remember many nights crying. I remember many days just thinking about giving up and just not even wanting to be here anymore and not knowing what to do. And it was just so much cloudiness and darkness in my thoughts and things of that nature. And I remember one day I had a different thought. And this thought was this. It said, Antonio, if you throw in the towel now, then how are you going to make your grandmother proud? Man, that thought, it changed something for me. And I began to fight, David. I began to fight in the midst of everything that I was feeling, in the midst of everything that I was dealing with. I began to press past the cloudiness and the darkness and the frustration and the anger and the hurt. And I began to fight for my grandmother. I began to live for my grandmother. And because I found that one thing that I was grateful for, that one thing that I was thankful for, it began to give me hope because I was in a hopeless state. It began to give me hope. It began to give me hope for today. It began to give me hope for tomorrow. And then what I began to realize is that I am valuable. I have worth. I am important. I began to realize that because the situations in my life had me feeling like I wasn't important, like I didn't have worth, like nobody cared about me. And what happened after that is, you know what? Slowly but surely, I started to walk a little different. I started to talk a little different. But more importantly, I started to think different about myself. And I began to get the victory over some of those obstacles that I was presented with in my life. And that's where my tagline, Be Grateful, comes from. Be grateful is a message of hope, love, and victory. You know, so if I tell children of all ages, people, period, if you could find one thing that you could be thankful for, if you could find one thing that you could be grateful for in the midst of all the darkness that's surrounding your life, I believe that one thing will be the very thing that you need to pull you up out of the pits and cause you to pursue your purpose, your passion, and what you was created for, and ultimately win in life.
And that choice to focus on being grateful and thankful is a daily one.
Yeah, absolutely. Never stops. It never stops. Never stops. Because life is life. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. But the one thing you must be reminded of is how you look at those situations, your perspective, because however you think is going to be the thing to trigger the emotions within you. And once those emotions are triggered, it's going to ultimately cause you to respond a certain way. And what I learned at a young age, and I still use it to this day, is that if I could just think about something positive, it can create a positive emotion within me. And if it creates a positive emotion within me, it's going to create a positive response out of me. And that is so key and so important for all of us, but especially youth in the foster care system.
So we address the potential foster parent who is thinking about opening their home. What about somebody who might hear this, Antonio, and they are Antonio? They are in foster care. They are unsure of their future. They are unsure if they matter. They don't have a sense of family. And they just feel like they just keep getting moved from place to place. And their identity is, they don't have an identity. They don't have a home. They don't have the bed, the closet, the clothes, the pictures on the wall, the memories, the backyard where I play catch or play football. They don't have any of that stuff because they just keep, for some reason, keep being moved around. What do you want to say to them?
Wow. If there's anyone listening that is facing anything similar to that, the first thing I want to say is the fact that you are still breathing, the fact that you are still here is a clear sign to me that there's a reason why. It's a clear sign to me that there's still something for you to do. And in the midst of what you're feeling and what you're dealing with, I would challenge you to ask yourself, what do you want for you? How would you like for your tomorrow to look? If you can change anything, if you could do anything, what would you do? And how would that look? Because one thing I had to do in those times was I had to create an image. I had to get an image in my mind. I had to get a vision in my mind of what I wanted my future to look like if I made it to 18, if I made it to 21. Because in my environment, they said 1 out of 4 African-American males by the time I reach 18 to 21 will be dead or in jail.
Wow.
So the statistics was against me to even make it to 21, right? But I saw myself making it to 18. I saw myself making it to 21. I saw myself not going to jail. I saw myself not in gangs. I saw myself not doing anything illegal. So I ask you, how do you see yourself? What do you see for yourself? Because the thing about it is that if you don't fight for yourself, you really can't expect anyone else to fight for you. But how you can fight for yourself is asking you what it is that you want, what it is that you see for yourself, because you deserve it. You deserve it. The fact that the truth of the matter is the situation that they're in right now, or the situation that you're in right now, is probably not because of something that you did. It's probably a direct consequence of something that someone else did, of the decision that someone else has made. So it's not your fault. You couldn't control it. You are not the one to blame. And if you feel that way, let it go as best as possible. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself first and realize that you deserve better. You deserve better. Yeah. I know that everything is telling you that you don't. But I'm telling you that you do. Because I'm telling you that you're worth it. I'm telling you that you're valuable. I'm telling you that you're precious. I'm telling you that you have a purpose. And I'm telling you, if you could just continue to put one foot in front of the other, I believe the help and the support that you need is right around the corner. And when you look back and see how far you came, you'll be astonished. You'll be astonished.
Antonio, I feel like I need to run around the block. I love your passion. I love the message. When your shirt ex foster child, when was that moment when you realized that you were no longer a foster child?
I think the moment when I was no longer embarrassed by it.
Wow. Okay, say that again.
When I was no longer embarrassed by it. It was in that moment. And that moment happened recently. That moment happened during the time when I actually started speaking, when I actually wanted to serve, when I actually wanted to impact lives. It was in that moment where I realized I'm not ashamed of this anymore.
Wow.
And because I'm not ashamed of it, I'm going to share the message. Because I'm not ashamed of it, I'm going to tell my story. Because I'm not ashamed of it, I'm going to stand in front of whoever it might be and deliver the message and story. Because I'm no longer ashamed of it, man.
I don't know how to end this, Antonio. I really don't. I really do appreciate the fact that you have time to share this message with me today. I know that this is going to connect with somebody. Somebody is going to hear this, and it's going to change somebody's world. Your message, your message, you as a person, Antonio, are changing people's lives. And the power of a story is a wonderful thing. And if somebody can tap into their story and use it as their superpower, like you're doing, is beyond inspirational. So what do you want to leave people with, Antonio? So as they walk away from this, as they contemplate getting the book, which I obviously suggest they grab the book, what do you want to leave people who are listening today or watching with?
You said something, and I'll share this message like this. For those of you who are contemplating on sharing your story, I would like to tell this story like this. You have a message, regardless if you feel like you do or don't, you have a message that's specifically designed to help someone. You have a message that's specifically designed to save someone. So many of us are in a plane in life. We're floating around in life. We're going places. We're doing things, right? But we're doing these things for us. But I want to challenge you to not only sit on the plane and enjoy the ride, but I want to challenge you to put your parachute on and jump out the plane. Why do I want to challenge you to do that? I want to challenge you to do that because there are people on the ground that are waiting on you to save them. There are people on the ground that are waiting to hear your story. There are people on the ground who are waiting for you to do what you're called and purposed to do. They're waiting on you. But if you don't jump out that plane, like Superman or something with your arms out and say, I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to save you. If you don't jump out the plane, then those people who are waiting on you will not be helped. The power of one. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Put on your parachute and jump. It's going to be scary. It's going to be fearful. But guess what? There's people waiting on you. And you can either die trying to save them, or you can die with your purpose and passion and everything within you, and they never possibly get helped. Jump. Do it.
The power of one.
Absolutely.
Imagine how your life would be different, Antonio, if you never shared this message. Right? We wouldn't be chatting today. And somebody wouldn't be hearing this today.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
It only takes one person to share the message.
Absolutely.
And if I can be a little part of that in helping you spread that, I feel honored that I can do that. So
thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Antonio, how do people connect with you, whether they want to be in the foster system and help, or they are in the foster system and they need care and love? They don't know where to go. How does somebody reach out to you?
Yeah, the best place to reach me and to contact me would be at my website, which is www.antoniograte.com. That's ANTONIOGRAT as in Tom, E as in elephant.com. On there, I have my social media handles, and also they can actually reach out to me through my website as well if they choose to. So that would be the best place to go.
And they're actually talking to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're actually talking to me. Yes.
That's great. And that's the best place to get the book as well.
Yes, absolutely. Website. Yep.
The Power of One. It's interesting how we just came back to the title at the end, isn't it? The Power of One.
Power of one, man. Absolutely.
I have one challenge for you, Antonio, today.
Okay.
Be grateful.
There it is.
Go hug that beautiful wife of yours and those kids.
Absolutely.
Continue on this path because you're doing it. And I appreciate you. I really do.
I appreciate you. And listen, remember to be grateful because it's more than just a slogan. It's a lifestyle. There it is.
Antonio Grate, The Power of One. You need this book in your life. And I challenge you to go get that. Go see Antonio, check him out, go follow him, give him all of the love. And if something hit you today, reach out to Antonio through his website. Let him know. And thank him as I thank you, Antonio. It's great. I really appreciate you.
It was an honor, Dave. Appreciate you.
Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, what do we do good? What do we need to work on? Let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode. It's coming up right now. Just let this keep playing and it'll automatically come. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad. Thank you.